How can a behavior be classified if it can seemingly be learned by neither classical nor operative conditioning? It is still learned, but there is an individual type of learning taking place. This type of learning is called species-typical behavior or specialized learning. This learning is either double-inclusive or completely separate from classical and operative conditioning. It encompasses 4 different types of learning: learning what to eat or eating habits, fear-related learning, identification learning, and place learning abilities. To begin, eating habits and how species learn what to eat was first studied by a man by the name of John Garcia. He proposed that some behaviors of species did not necessarily follow the classical conditioning behaviors of the time. He experimented with this idea by poisoning animals' food as well as projecting X-rays onto the animal to achieve a desired behavior. He did this, for example, with rats and their food to test the idea of food aversion. He began with a rat that was hungry. In this example, we say that the rat is hungry for cheese. If the cheese was not poisoned, we would see a rat that is happy and will go back for more cheese. However, if the cheese is poisoned, the rat will, after a certain amount of time, which is needed for the rat to understand that the food is tainted, recognize the danger of the food. In the future, the smell and taste of the poisonous food will become repulsive to the rat. Sight, though, will not affect the rat's decision to eat the food. If the cheese looks exactly the same as the poisonous cheese, but tastes and smells different, it will not affect the rat's decision. Garcia also discovered that rats could maintain a food preference. He removed thiamine, the B1 vitamin, from rats' diets and then tested which food the rats would eat. For our purposes, we choose 3 different foods that have different vitamins: broccoli, carrots, and seeds, the last of which contains thiamine. When the rats had the opportunity to eat the different foods, the food which the rats gravitated to were the seeds, seeing as they lacked thiamine in their diets without the seeds. This is because the rats, over time, could sense which food aided their health the most. The seeds did this, so in our example, they ate more seeds than broccoli or carrots. Another branch of eating habits is learning from others. When a child is young, they tend to trust foods that they see their elders eat. If, for example, a child is introduced to broccoli and sees that their father or an elder does not eat it, they will not desire the broccoli. If, on the other hand, their mother does eat the broccoli, the child will follow this and eat it as well. This happens over the course of many years, but it is a once important evolutionary function that helps children to eat safe foods that are not poisonous, thereby keeping the child alive. The next section of specialized learning is fear-related learning. A well-known investigation into this idea was conducted by 2 men named Watson and Rayner, who used a baby by the name of Albert and banged pots and pans behind the child when a bunny came nearby. They found that the child would become scared when the bunny came by again. This theory was slightly disproven later on, though, as fear was found to not be inherited, a slight fault in the Watson and Rayner theory. A more accurate study was conducted by a woman named Susan Mineka. She and her colleagues studied the reaction of a baby rhesus monkey to a nearby snake. They found that the monkey had no reaction to the snake. Once they introduced the baby rhesus monkey to adult monkeys, though, they found a change. When the adults acted scared of the snake, the baby monkey slowly adapted to the fear and became fearful itself. This fear is learned from elders and others around the monkey, showing that fear is not inherited, but instead adapted.
The third section is identification learning. A man by the name of Spalding was one of the first to try to understand this. He observed newly hatched chicks and watched how their immediacy in walking translated to fast identification of their mother. This is a species' typical behavior, as the chicks need to be close to the mother for safety. He separated a different set of newly hatched chicks from their mother during their species' critical period of 5 days and found that when he entered the room, being the first being they saw, that the chicks would follow him. This is called imprinting. Later on, a man named Conrad Lorenz would observe the same behavior in newly hatched goslings.
To elaborate further on imprinting, it is a combination of timing, or the critical period, which was 5 days for the chicks, a stimulus, or the appearance of the mother hen, and the behavioral or species-typical response, which was for the chicks to follow and latch on to the first being they saw. Lastly, there are place learning skills. This skill is the utilization of the 5 senses: hearing, smelling, seeing, touching, and tasting, to learn the location or place that a species inhabits. This is most notable in a study of Clark's nutcrackers, fish living in the southwestern United States. For our convenience, though, this species of fish lay its eggs in a river in central Illinois. Once the fish hatch, they go off on their own and travel downriver. 5 years later, though, when the fish need to lay their own eggs, they utilize their sense of smell to navigate back upstream to where they hatched, a safe place for their offspring as they know it. Species-typical behavior is specific to each species, developed over time through evolution. Though some behaviors and functions of such are now irrelevant, they explain how animals can be naturally conditioned without the aid of psychologists and scientists, explaining many habits for which we previously did not have a reason.